If you think of yourself as an ambitious man who has big goals and yet you still don't really believe in yourself because deep down you know you're kind of lazy, not very disciplined, you are not yet the character who can actually build the life you want, then honestly the best thing you can do is just get shredded. Get into the best shape of your life, because it's going to teach you so many things about yourself. It's going to give you so many skills that will later you'll be able to build upon to create this discipline, create this internal fulfillment, this unwavering self-belief, this delusional confidence in your own abilities, so that you can then go on to conquer larger and larger goals. In the summer of 2024, I was at rock bottom, the lowest I'd ever been. I wasn't a completely depraved degenerate back in the day when I was smoking weed every single day, 3 to 7 times a day, jacking off, busting nuts 3 to 7 times a day, stuffing my face with sugary bullshit non-stop, shoplifting thousands worth of food and sweeties and alcohol, getting drunk alone in my room, and just being a complete low-life loser. No, I had felt like I hit a new kind of rock bottom, because I was sober, I wasn't smoking anymore, I wasn't drinking, and yet I was desperately depressed. I was drifting around with no direction, no purpose. I'd lost all my zest, my passion for life, and I felt like a complete loser, because wherever I looked, there were guys younger than me becoming more successful, more ambitious, more disciplined, and I genuinely fucking hated myself. My physique was the physical proof of this. Every single time I looked in the mirror, I was reminded of all these things. And I genuinely got to a point where I convinced myself that I had done irreparable damage to my physique. I didn't know if I should bulk or cut. I thought I was too skinny fat to be able to ever fix myself. And I thought my mental state had become so far gone that I would never actually manage to change myself. Fuck me, I wish I had this video when I was in that state, so I could just cut out all the noise, get to 7% body fat, and feel like the fucking man again.
Okay, bro, let's speedrun our way to 7% body fat as smoothly and efficiently as possible. But first, just a little bit about how I got here. So this whole transformation from 97 kilos, depression bulking, basically just stuffing my face, eating emotionally because I fucking hated myself and hated my life, with disgusting anxiety, really cringe social skills, where every conversation I left feeling like a complete autist, and I didn't want to impose my presence upon anyone because I felt like I had nothing to offer. Basically just living a very sad and lonely life of a loser. All I was doing was going to the gym, going to work, literally the times that I wasn't training or working, I was just playing online chess while stuffing my face, while watching Netflix, and throughout the entire day, even while at the gym and working, I'd always have something playing in my headphones, some kind of audiobook or podcast or YouTube video, something that could just distract me away from the pain. And at this point, I had just come back to my parents' house after being cucked by my best friend, living with him. I broke up with a girl that I loved dearly because honestly I was terrified that she was going to break up with me first. So I wanted to preemptive strike, be the one to end it. And I just felt my mental health going to shit and I didn't want to take her with me. I was falling off like crazy. I was not the guy that she started dating, and the entire time, or no, the entire time towards the end, I was terrified that she was gonna cheat on me with my best friend. And what ended up happening very soon after we broke up is they started dating. So I fled back home to my parents' house because I was terrified of seeing them together. Funnily enough, I did that to myself. I don't blame them at all. It was all my fault for just fucking falling off, being a complete like worthless loser. Also, I thought at the time. So I went from that depressed mess to 80 kilos, stage ready condition. Obviously, the legs are not ideal, but hey, we'll fix that We'll fix that. We are in the process of fixing that. But I couldn't even remember what anxiety was because I was just always in an effortless flow state, because it's really easy to feel confident and socially calibrated when everyone around you is complimenting you, singing your praises, when heads are turning everywhere you go, and all of this just led to an insane aura where my presence was very, very noticeable. And prepping for this show, just being in the process, getting shredded every single day and documenting it for the YouTube channel, just created such a purposeful, exciting life where no matter how challenging it was at times, it felt meaningful. The challenge was for a good reason. Even getting asked for advice by guys who are bigger than me but who had never managed to get this ripped before. And it doesn't need to be said that attention from women was at an all-time high. Whenever I'd make the least amusing comments, not even trying to joke, it would be like, oh my god, you're so, stop it, you play too much, sort of thing. If you know, you know. Now, this entire journey took just over a year, about a year and 3 months actually, but it definitely didn't have to take this long. Some people would doubt this. Some people would say, just a year? There's no way you're natural, bro. But I need to emphasize that even though I look pretty bad here, or at least disgusting to my standards, I was still training. I was still building muscle. I had a foundation of muscle mass underneath. So it wasn't like I was going from 0 to this in 1 year. I need to make that very clear. But like I said already, it really didn't have to take that long. I could have literally shredded down to that in 6 months or so if I had followed the right system and if I didn't get sidetracked chasing shiny objects. Throughout the year, I actually did a lot of shit. Didn't really achieve anything crazy because I didn't fully commit to any one of these things. When I began this self-development transformation of absolutely disgusting mental health to feeling better about myself, I actually started doing some mountain rocking where I'd put on some heavy weight, I'd climb the same mountain, different routes, different difficulties, and that definitely isn't optimal for bodybuilding because even though that burns a just absurd amount of calories and gives you a constant weighted stretch in the traps and upper back, as well as just destroying your legs on the way up, constant tension on the quads. It's just so fucking fatiguing, and you're never gonna get ripped with that much fatigue that isn't directed towards actually training weights. I also did Muay Thai for a couple months where I intended to go all in, but I went too far in where my plan was to train weights in the mornings and then Muay Thai in the evenings. And obviously, I bit off way more than I could chew and fatigued the fuck out of myself. Ended up just burning out, fizzling out, and going back to just lifting weights. Throughout that time, I did a bit of sporadic bulking where I would get lean, be happy with my physique, but I was insecure about how heavy I was. I wanted to be heavier, I wanted to be bigger, stronger, and so I would stuff my face with the cleanest bulk, or at least that's what I thought. I tried to make it as clean as possible, stuffing myself with an insane amount of nuts and raisins, just ballooning the fuck up within weeks. Like, if you're gonna commit to a bulk, make it slow, make it at least 6 to 9 months, preferably a year or more, but I would just do it weeks at a time, become pretty just chunky, fluffy, not happy with how I looked, and then just go back down, and it was a mess. It was a complete unstructured, chaotic system, And I also tried to go keto carnivore because I thought that, you know, carbs make you retarded, and I want to focus on going all in on business and just being as mentally performative as possible. And did that work? No, not really, because I was trying to build that off a completely unstable, chaotic foundation. And I would never ever recommend keto. Keto is shit. If you're gonna do low carbs, just cut the carbs completely. Go carnivore. Even though I don't recommend that anymore because I'm fucking vegan now. But anyway, when you're keto and you have just a few carbs, it's the worst of both worlds because your body, it can't tell whether or not to use fats or carbs as fuel. So you're just in this stasis where you're sleeping 8, 9, 10 hours a night and you're still waking up feeling dreadfully exhausted, and throughout the entire day you have zero energy, your workouts suck. Fuck keto. Maybe I didn't do it properly, who knows, but just fuck keto. Stupid diet. But throughout this chaotic year where I would go devote myself to some crazy new activity, whether it was mountain biking, Muay Thai, sporadic bulking, carnivore, keto, fucking sales, doesn't matter. The common denominator was I was trying to reinvent my identity like this, like overnight, just become someone entirely new, going all in on one thing or another. And before I made this decision to go all in, I would be glamorizing the hard work, you know, fantasizing about how it's going to feel going through the process, always thinking about, you know, the best case possible scenario and what kind of results it would get me, but just giving up when the fantasy did not match reality. And I realized that, oh shit, hard work actually feels hard. And the key lesson I learned throughout this entire time is that you don't have training and nutrition problems. You have personal development problems that are showing up in your training and your nutrition and your physique. AKA, you need to sort this fucking mess out first. So before I start to talk to you about any kind of technical details, training, nutrition, I think we need to talk about the elephant in the room, the identity shift that is necessary to escape this mental hell, this purgatory of hating yourself. Because this man right here is physically incapable of making this transformation as the current level of his identity, because he would always be in a cycle of despair and failure, going from extreme diet to extreme binge, just being consistent for a few days and then falling off like crazy. So we need to do some fundamental, foundational work to completely build a new man. What helped me perform this identity shift was, first things first, starting my day off with a 4 a.m. alarm every single day, no matter how I felt. And this 4 a.m. morning routine where I'd get up, do a cold shower, do some quick exercise, and meditate would reinforce the identity that I am a disciplined guy, that I don't care about my cute little feelings. I'm just going to get to work and do the actions necessary, no matter what my emotions are saying. This daily meditation helped reinforce the fact that I am focused. Then I had to set just one clear goal, just get rid of all the mess and say, I'm getting shredded, that's it. I'm going to go all in, I'm going to do a photo shoot to display myself at my best. And along the way, me and my coach decided, let's just fucking do a bodybuilding show, because why not? Why not? And this one clear goal of getting shredded, getting to my ideal physique, just helped me reinforce the identity that I am persistent. I stick to the path no matter what. Step 0 was the identity shift, and with this new identity, I had to make a belief shift, and so do you. You have to get a much better relationship to pain and suffering and realize that this shit is good. This is what molds you, and while you're going through this pain and suffering, this is what is further cementing this character transformation, this identity shift. Every single time you have a challenge, some unexpected obstacle that you have to overcome, realize that This is actually a test to see if you are ready for the next level of challenge, and therefore the next level of test, because it's just a constant test to chisel you and sculpt you into the man who's capable of more and more and more. And every single obstacle is an opportunity. You have to see it as such. You can't think of setbacks as problems, but rather think about the setback as an opportunity to find a solution and improve your problem solving skills. And it obviously doesn't have to be said that getting into this kind of conditioning requires dealing with a lot of hunger. There's no way to escape it. There's no cute little volume eating, high protein hacks like the fitness industry wants you to believe that it's going to somehow cancel out the hunger, because you can literally stuff your stomach full of spinach and carrots, which is going to be very voluminous, very low calories, and yet you're still going to be starving afterwards because it's macros that your body's craving. Fats, proteins, carbs, fats especially, that are actually going to satiate you. But anyway, that's beside the point. The technical details are coming later, but we have to rewire our relationship with hunger and realize that it's a good thing, because hunger makes you feel clarity. It makes you feel clear. It purges you from all the bullshit. And the hungrier you are, the more you are separating yourself from all the normal NPCs living shitty lives, completely unhappy with their physique and their circumstances, always blaming everyone else, playing the victim, never ever improving. Hunger is the emotion, the feeling of the hunter, the savage, the disciplined motherfucker who's gonna delay his gratification and completely change his relationship to food. Does that all make sense? Okay, good, because that foundational mindset and identity stuff, that is so critical. Everyone loves to gloss over it or think, oh no, it's just annoying, just get to the good shit. No, that is the good shit, bro. Now let's get to the technical details a bit more. So, in order to preserve muscle in your shredding phase and actually look good instead of like a flaccid string bean, you have to train hard as fuck. Probably even harder than when you were building and bulking. Training split, it absolutely doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want as long as your muscles are getting hit at least twice a week. Now, in terms of volume, I actually did the maximum recoverable volume, where I was doing more volume in my cut than in my bulk, because you really have to do everything in your power to hold on to as much muscle as possible. Because remember, if this shit was easy, everyone would be shredded, looking insane, and therefore it wouldn't be special anymore. That being said, just because you're training hard doesn't mean you have to train hard using really difficult exercises that are fatiguing as hell, because in this state you really want to get as much muscle tension with as little fatigue as possible. So you should pick exercises where you're not using a crazy weight, where you can really hone in on the target muscle group. So for example, rather than doing a deadlift, you do a back extension. Rather than doing a barbell squat, you do a belt squat. That's going to save you so much fatigue and leave you so much juice to be able to push the muscles that you actually want to work. And as well as the exercise, there's a certain technique that you do for maximal tension, where you're going to lift lighter weight, you're going to get a deeper range of motion, and you're going to do it at a slower tempo, where you might not be lifting the weights you usually would, but that's going to happen regardless of technique, because when you get this lean, you're just going to lose a lot of strength, and that's that. Or rather, you're going to lose a lot of strength on exercises like the squat, like the bench press. But if you do pick some of these less fatiguing exercises, there's a chance you might even slightly improve your strength throughout the cut. Now let's talk a little bit about calories and diet. So I went for a pretty aggressive deficit I started off pretty slow and it didn't do that much. Yeah, I was losing weight, but it wasn't very rapid. I didn't make any crazy changes, but as soon as I started working with my coach, we dropped it significantly, and immediately I just felt this constant hunger throughout my day. But very quickly, just like that, I just shredded down. So I woke up one day and I was just like, shit. Before that, when I was trying to do things a bit slower, I was a bit more of a flaccid string bean type of physique where I was looking flatter, was definitely looking more depleted, but I didn't quite get to that point where everything was just like popping. And then, funnily enough, when I dropped down and started really shredding, that's when I actually looked bigger, even though I wasn't, even though my weight was lower. I just looked so much more impressive. And so the more aggressive you get with your deficit, the quicker you're going to see results. But more importantly, the shorter amount of time that you're actually going to suffer. However, the suffering is going to be more intense. So be ready for that. But remember, suffering is good, right? Yeah, got it. Sweet. So because you're in an aggressive deficit, you have to be so careful about your calorie budget. You can't waste a single calorie. No sugary treats, no trying to find the perfect way to include your favorite foods. No. Micronutrients above all, meaning clean, whole foods. I'll be honest, at this point, I went through a very animal-based heavy diet where I was eating a lot of beef mince, eggs, a lot of egg whites actually, which I normally wouldn't recommend because they haven't got any micronutrients. But when you're getting this lean, you've got to do what you've got to do. Still, as many eggs, like whole eggs, as possible while maintaining the macros. A lot of fruit, a lot of mainly just meat and fruit, beef liver because very micronutrient dense. However, that's not really my diet philosophy now. Next time I get this ripped, I'm not going to spoil how soon that's going to be, but next time is I'm going to do this entirely vegan and we're going to see the difference. We're going to see how much easier it is or how much harder it is or how much shitter I feel or how much better I feel. I have no idea. It's going to be an experiment. It's going to be fun, but that's just what I did in this situation. Doesn't matter, animal-based vegan, pick micronutrient density above everything else. And remember, fat loss doesn't have to be sustainable. You're not doing this for the rest of your life, right? You're getting ripped to see what you're capable of and then building from there, creating a foundation that is way easier to build like actually quality lean tissue upon. Something that made this infinitely easier for me was just keeping moving no matter what, 15 to 20,000 steps a day minimum. Pretty easy because I was working a delivery job, so steps were just naturally accumulated. But even on the days when I wasn't working, which was only about one day a week, I would still just go off on long walks, and that helped massively because not only did that allow me to eat more food, it just gave me energy because you don't gain energy from rest, you gain energy from motion and you restore energy with rest. So honestly, no wonder most bodybuilders feel like absolute shit naturally, of course, when they step on stage. When I was preparing for my show, all of my competitors around me, they were like dead on their feet, and I was the most energetic out of all of them because a big part was I just kept moving and I was filled with purpose and I was on a fucking mission. When it comes to cardio, I didn't actually write it down, my bad, but just standard shit, 4 times a week, 35 minutes on the incline treadmill, pretty rapid pace, but just enough to get a slight extra bit of movement in. That didn't count towards my steps, by the way. I did steps tracked separately. Now let's talk about the mammoth in the room falling off, because it's very likely that you're not going to stay 100% consistent. I didn't. I wish I did, because that would have made me feel like so much more of a savage, like a relentless, disciplined motherfucker, but I fell off a few times. There was a certain day where everything was going wrong. I woke up on about 2 hours of sleep because the night before I found out that my grandfather had passed away, and I wish I could say that I was devastated by it, but honestly, we didn't know each other that well. I was mainly just sad for my mother because that was her dad, and I was worried about her. And also, I was worried that I felt sad that I didn't feel more sad, if that makes any sense. But the day after, I was working like the longest shift that I had done at any point throughout the entire cut. I was working two different jobs, both delivery driving in the morning, and uh, then drove immediately straight to another one where I ended up clocking in about 16 to 18 hours that day, which isn't anything crazy, but when you're that depleted and tired and hungry, it literally feels like a day from hell. It felt like all the forces were against me, but then as I was going, like as I was finishing off the day, I felt a second wind kick in. When I got to my second job of the day, I was starting to feel like overwhelmed, like, oh shit, how am I going to make it through this? But then as I just started going through the motions and getting through it, I was more and more refilled with this like aura, this fuck, I'm going to make it through, I'm going to make it happen, I'm going to elevate above any problem. And then towards the end, I felt like a G because, yeah, I fucking did it, mate. But that's where it all went wrong. That was my downfall because I had felt like I won before I'd actually won. And so when I got home that night around midnight, oh, fuck man, I went on an absolute binge. I ravished my cupboards. Sweet, savoury, sour, nothing was safe. Literally nothing was out of bound. I ended up by the end of the night just like dipping breadsticks into Nutella. Oh, it was terrible. But funny thing is, I woke up the next morning and my physique looked even better because clearly I had been so depleted and that crazy amount of food just like restored a bit of fullness. The point is that it didn't do any damage in my physique, but rather my mentality. Because when it comes to building just the physique, like your overall trend matters way more than just each individual day. However, when it comes to your mental savagery and your mindset, unbroken streaks are so much more powerful when you can just stack discipline upon discipline, wins upon wins upon wins. It lets you come on camera and speak with so much more conviction. And that, rather than the actual physique itself, is what creates this inevitable aura where your presence is greatly noticed. So being 100% disciplined and staying on the path, it's what keeps you at that higher frequency of just feeling undefeated. But if you do make a big mistake and if you fall off like I did, just get right back on the path ASAP. Don't try to overcompensate the next day by saying, no, I'm going to fast the entire day, I'm going to eat only protein. No, just get back onto the meal plan that you originally planned. And don't let this defeat you mentally. Don't think, oh, I'm a worthless loser, I'm a failure, I don't have what it takes. No. You just messed up. I made a mistake, and I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to fix it. However, I must insist, 100% discipline just makes you. It is way more fulfilling. I will say that it might feel like it's way more restrictive, but restriction equals freedom. If you know, you know. Those were some technical details, but quite honestly, you don't need more information. Stop thinking that, oh, I'm going to watch more YouTube videos, I'm going to learn and educate myself, and therefore I'm going to get better results. How's that been working for you, bro? I ask honestly. Because throughout this entire period, I don't think I watched. Actually, that's a lie. I watched a few YouTube videos about fitness, but they didn't help. They actually got me a bit distracted and out of process focus. But throughout this entire time, I overall watched way less fitness content than I ever did in my entire life. Because you have to get to a certain point where you truly just put on some noise cancelling headphones, you put on some blinders, you have a process that you just spam, you repeat, you focus not on more shiny objects, you focus on developing your consistency, your discipline, and your relentless focus on this process. And that's why having a coach helped me so much. He didn't teach me all that much. Like, yeah, I learned a few bits and pieces about like fitness education and stuff, but mainly it was more about mindset and accountability and just taking relentless action through thick and thin, no matter how I felt. So with that being said, there's going to be a link down below, and if this entire process is something you want to go through and you want to look the craziest you've ever done so that you can feel like the fucking man, you can have crazy aura, crazy confidence, delusional self-belief in your own abilities, then maybe we'd be a good fit to work together. Fill out the form, let's hop on a call, let's see if I can help you out.